Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kaylee McEnany here with my co-host Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Julie Banderas, Cheryl Casoni, and Jimmy Faillia. Well, we begin with the growing threat of a rail strike right in time for the holiday season. It's yet another potential crisis for the Biden administration, but in just a few hours, the president will head off to Nantucket for his Thanksgiving vacation. You'll remember before the midterms, he took credit for averting a strike after the White House helped broker an agreement with the unions. Well, that deal, it just fell apart. And we are now just weeks away from the potential shutdown of our nation's railways. That could have dire consequences for our economy, costing more than $2 billion a day. That's a lot. Could derail our supply chains and leave American consumers paying the price. Here's former Trump economic advisor Steve Bohr.
Inflation is bad now. Wait until we have a rail strike. I mean, so much of the goods and services that we purchase are delivered on rail. If that strike happens, the supply chain problems obviously are going to get much worse.
So how is the White House responding? Take a look.
The president remains focused on protecting, like I said, American families, farms, businesses by avoiding a rail shutdown. We continue to urge both sides to finish their work in good faith and avoid even the threat of a shutdown, as we've been saying. But like we do for all issues, our team is preparing and planning for all possible outcomes, even as we continue to work to avert a shutdown. But our priority is making sure that we even avert the shutdown.
So if this sounds very familiar, Emily, it should, because we just went through this right before the midterm election. Here's President Biden and what he had to say then. He was taking a little bit of a victory lap on averting the shutdown the first time.
This agreement can avert the significant damage that any shutdown would have brought. Our nation's rail system is the backbone of our supply chain.
And he also tweeted to the Wall Street Journal, thanks for your concern. To answer your question, yes, the trains are running on time. But here we are just weeks later, just over a month later.
Yeah, talk about Amtrak Joe prematurely spiking the football with a snarky tone to boot. This is what gets me. So he said that he's the best friend unions have ever had in the White House, right? We know he's dumped tons of money on public unions, but apparently either private unions are an exception or he's just full of stuffing, shall we say. Because it's his presidential board that he convened that were the first to reject the sick leave. And that was part of the primary considerations, the sticking point of these union negotiations. Isn't he supposed to be a friend to the workers? Shouldn't he put their needs, their wants above all, especially in a post-pandemic time when sick leave is very crucial given so many family members having to take it to care for their children and other family members in the situations that, for example, they go to school and it's shut down, etc. So here we have a president that yet again claims to be something on the campaign trail, claims to be something from the podium, and yet has absolutely nothing to show for it. He is an abject failure over and over again. It's empty promises. And the board he created, mind you, the unions voted immediately to reject it. This was supposed to be labor law experts. They've done nothing but muddy the waters. And to his point, he is right. Everything depends on the railway. I wish he just would have said that point after acknowledging there's no agreement rather than before.
So to set the stage here for our viewers a little bit, Cheryl, 7 of the 12, it could be 8 of the 12 at this point, voted in favor, from what I understand, of the agreement. 4 voted to turn down this agreement. It's over sick leave. They're wanting more sick leave despite wages going up in this deal. So there is a positive there for union workers. But you have the engineers voting one way, the conductors voting another way. But Congress can come in and swoop. They have the power over contracts and swoop over these votes that need to be unanimous and essentially salvage off what could be a railway strike. So a lot of moving parts here between Congress and the unions.
Congress could do that. That'd be very bad, though, for the unions and for those workers. But let's be clear what they're rejecting here. 24% pay raises, 24%, $5,000 bonuses. And the sick leave, to your point about that, they actually were giving that up in prior negotiations because they were getting these huge raises and they were getting these bonuses and contracts passed. All of a sudden, none of that is good enough. And look, 1/3 of goods and services uses rails. I can't believe we have to game this out again and talk about this going into Christmas, about fuel, about food, perishables in particular. Those are really what use the nation's rail system, and that's the most at what is risk right now. now and the U.S. economy and the whole holiday thing. Look, they have phones in Nantucket. The president needs to get on the phone. This is a small thing, in my opinion, that they are stuck on. And to your point, that was a very narrow vote to reject it. Biden needs to get on the horn right now. Our economy can't take this. You will see a recession right now.
And the vote was just a few hundred members who voted one way. So it was about 1 percentage point moving in either direction. But Julie, the impact this would have as we approach December 9th, we said $2 billion a day.
Yep.
That's a lot. 700,000 jobs, at stake here. 4% producer prices is what would go up there. I mean, this is a lot at stake. Virtually every consumer good could just come to a grinding halt, and not to mention consumer travel.
Right. I mean, this would absolutely put such a dent in our economy. We can't afford it. I mean, seriously, that is just way too much money. I do think it's ironic, though, that wasn't it just last week that the Federal Reserve chairman came out and said that we need to stop giving raises because we need to try to slow down inflation?
Yes.
So the Federal Reserve chairman, remember last week, and we all kind of thought to ourselves, well, that's a great way to pump, money back into the economy. Let's stop paying people. But here we have the president contradicting that whole sentiment last week by approving 24% bonuses, 24% raises rather, and $5,000 bonuses, which would bring their total salaries to $110,000 a year on average. That is way more than the average American is making. So the president's sort of contradicting the whole message that's coming out of the White House by these raises in the first place.
Can I have one more point here? 1/3 of the railroad workforce is gone over the last 6 years.
Wow.
This is a shrinking job sector. So when you were looking at, what are the railroads going to do? The next thing is going to be layoffs, job losses. But 1/3 of that industry is already gone.
And that was one of their complaints. They said, here, you cut our jobs, and now we don't get any sick time. And it is interesting, Jimmy, to watch this mutiny among workers against labor leaders, a mutiny against what is a labor president who, we all saw how into lockdowns and COVID he was. And you think, sick days is something that Biden would at least be in tune with a little bit more with the workers on.
Well, at this point, I'm just glad he didn't tell everybody he used to be a train driver. Because, every time one of these issues comes up,
afternoon.
He was busy being a truck driver.
Yes, electric trucks. I used to drive a truck, Mailman, I was on the Pony Express. So at least he stayed on message for a few minutes here. But I have a lot of empathy for the rest of the country. We're New Yorkers. I'm used to the trains not running on time. Okay, the M train is called M because it stands for maybe. We don't even know if it's coming. Let's be clear. But in the rest of the country, this is twofold. Obviously, the economic impact is immediately. But if you look forward, there's also the Christmas issue. Which is goods traveling and things getting shipped on time. And what always starts out as empathy for the workers is going to shift really quickly if Christmas gets around. The only people who won't be mad at them is me, because I'm buying gift cards anyway. As long as the gift cards, I put no thought into this. I'm the lazy fat guy, my wife shops. But I mean, the rest of the country is really being held hostage in this moment. And to be clear, it's a moment that we were told was in the bag. This guy did the touchdown dance at the 3-yard line. He didn't wait till he got into the end zone. We had a party in the Rose Garden. He dumped the Gatorade on himself like we're going to Disney World. And then he looked at the scoreboard and was like, oh, hell. And that's where we are.
But I hope we don't misplace any type of rage in Christmas time to the workers, because it's an analogous to the NYPD. They are being asked to do more with less. They have 2/3 of the workforce, and so the ones remaining are being told you can't take sick leave with 1 day notice and you can't do this. They're spread thin. They deserve a fair shake too. So our grievances should be with those leaders and this administration who put them in that position.
Cheryl, so as we end here, what's the way out here? Because December 9th is coming fast. They say shipments will stop in advance of that. So as we get closer to the deadline, it could be a lot of pain, a lot of trouble. What's the end game here?
The end game is that I don't think anybody understands the gravity of this and exactly how it is going to cripple the U.S. economy. I mean, we're talking, again, when I talk about perishables, that is fuel, that is heating oil, that is food. This could be very detrimental. And to your point, yes, all those Christmas items, they're going to start to stop those shipments.
Wow. No toys for Christmas. Wait, I thought we were going through that last year, and then Biden saved Christmas, and now it's at risk again. Oh, I'm sensing a pattern. Whoa. Okay, coming up.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.